Thank you everyone for coming here. So my name is Anna Pisarevskaia. I am UI UX designer at Belka Games company. And Belka Games company is a developing company operating since 2010, and we have been ranked top 15 grossing company in European region according to Data and I. And Belka has three projects in operation. It's Bermuda Adventures, Clockmaker, and Solitaire Cruise. So today I will tell how to use UI UX to program a player to go through the right flow and get a positive emotional experience. First of all, in order to know how to understand how to influence a player, we need to know what is going on inside their head, how they think and how they perceive visual information. One of the first to study visual perception was Hermann von Helmholtz. He believed that people's brain turned sensory signals into meaningful images by making assumptions that are based on expectations, beliefs, and past knowledge. So his follower was English scientist Richard Gregory. According to his theory, he states that the visual perception depends on downward processing. That is when the brain forms an idea of the big object out of small details. So this means that when somebody sees something, they might not see the whole story. So the main characteristics of human perceptions that we need to remember is that perception is an interpretation of what we see. And our mental representation of reality is not perfect, and it's influenced by cognition. Different people can have different perception of the same input. And our attention span is limited, and we often focus on what is most relevant to us based on our current goals and needs. So cognitive theory says that what we really perceive is not what is really there. It's all based on the meaning we give to the data we receive. And how does it help us to make a perfect UX? So, as I already know, person perceives the information based on the previous experience. So this can be called a mental model. In simple terms, it's what helps you to recognize a pen when you see it and that you know how to use it. And mental models are formed in our brain absolutely on any issue, including each of us having a database of mental models. So to create a positive user experience as a UI designer, you just need to guess the most common mental models. And for example, you need to make a section with mail. And for the icon, you either choose the envelope that maybe everyone is tired of, and the pigeon, the new idea. So, from the good user experience, the envelope icon will definitely win because it's already became a generally accepted mental model. With the other icon like pigeon, the user will be forced to relearn. And many video games have similar features, but it's not because we are lazy to develop something new, but because people like familiarity. They enjoy it because they already know how to navigate in the game. So when you're developing a new feature, you just need to identify the key points in the existing mental models and add your unique characteristics. And this situation is also similar in the established methods of obtaining information. In our regions, people read from left to right, and it is best described by a famous Gutenberg diagram. So when you are placing an information, the most important part should be in the upper left corner and in the right corner. So you should take it into account when you are placing elements of your interface. And another major point is that nowadays modern users are just bombarded with information, and to keep up, people are developing clip thinking. And that means that they focus primarily on sound and image and evaluate information from the position whether they like it or not. So this also leads to the fact that the modern consumer can hardly analyze on the content. So emotional plan comes first, and we need also to consider that. So use user feelings to attract the attention. A good UI should always have an emotional impact on the user and make them feel something. And in digital world, it's only possible to attract the user attention with two senses: auditory and visual, which are regulated by color, size, and position. So let's go through each parameter. Properly selected colors create an atmosphere and an emotional depth, but when they do not combine, there is feeling of dissonance and visual noise. Through colors, we can guide our user and create an accent points in the interface. So based on the mental models I already mentioned in this report, we already know what colors to pick up for the interface. So for example, red is perceived best when it's used for critical situations, while the green is often associated with luck, surprise, adventure, and so the play button is very often colored in different shades of green. The blue color is the color of sky and ocean, and it's also associated with depth and stability. So you better choose the color for the standard interfaces like settings, menus, mails, etc. And the purple color is often associated with royalty and wellness, and also with mystery and magic. So it's often used in the interface that are meant to be used for a short period of time or that are not intended to be used very often. And colors have a very powerful emotional impact on the user. With it, we set the atmosphere and also maintain the user concentration. So you also need to monitor such parameters as brightness, contrast, and tone. So to emphasize the accent point in the interface, we can use 2 or 3 knockout colors, but also the tone. For example, in this picture, I wanted to attract the user attention to the main reward and the high score that they need to collect to get the main reward. So we made the center part of the picture brighter and lighter, and the rest is more muted. And to check it, you can make it black and white and also move away. Because our brain read faster tones than colors or details. And the background, on the contrary, should not attract too much attention. So we made it darker. We placed it just in the depth of the picture. And if you want to make the user click on a certain button, you need to make it lighter and brighter, and the rest is more muted. Next, let's talk about elements and their shape. The main elements of the interface should be remembered by the player and be different from each other. And it's also useful to use the principle of skeuomorphism. It's when an object looks like something from the real world. So our brain will quickly understand that the gear is the settings and the backpack is the inventory. So the form is read and understood by brain faster than the details or colors, so the shape of the interface must be simple and clear, so the player can understand them quickly. It should be always remembered that the more complex the icon, the more details it contains, the longer it will take to be identified by user. Ideal icons are those that a user knows what to do, what will happen if they click on it, even if the icon is not signed. So for example, here we replaced black heavy strokes with colored ones in tone of the object, just to emphasize the integrity of the object. And you shouldn't add a bunch of elements to the silhouette, because at a distance everything will merge into one indistinguishable spot. We need to remember that when we're rendering the icons, the user will look at them from the distance and in a very small size. So you need to leave some rest areas with low details, and you just need to decide the volume with large strokes. So, for example, here in the taco icon, I cannot distinguish what does it contain. And we removed some vegetables and some we enlarged. And the same with the porridge with worms. I can actually see worms, and that's what not it meant to be, because the porridge was actually made of pumpkin. In general, the good rule of UI that the interface should be clean and understandable. And the last parameter, but not least, is how we position objects. It's important to arrange interface elements in the way that they form recognizable simple shapes like a rectangle or a line, because our brain works in such a way that it used to isolate geometric shapes and put them into a composition. To do this, when we design the interface, you can draw mentally or physically a line and to check whether the elements of your window create the composition. And also the user attention should be able to move easily between groups, so they all should be in harmony with each other, because this creates the visual order and it's easy to follow and make the user experience more enjoyable. So to do this, we need to determine information layers and work with spaces between them. If two things are close to each other, then they seem as one thing. If they are far apart, then it's two different groups. And in order to work effectively, you can use laws of Gestalt. And what other techniques we can use to highlight the information layer? In order to bring some information to the fore, we can also play with the volume. To do this, we need to determine which information layers will be voluminous and for what. For example, in this picture, I wanted the user to click on the green button, so I made it the biggest elements of the whole interface. And then I apply this rule to the other informational layers that the user can click on. So information layers that are playing with the volume help our user to navigate in the space, and they reduce the cognitive load. If the information layers are too flat, they cannot attract attention or interest the users. So another way to focus the user attention is to use guiding vectors. A guiding vector, it's a term that came to us from a drawing, and it's used in the composition to emphasize the accent point. So we can also apply this in user interfaces. For example, in this window, our goal was to make the user pay attention at the green button with golden ticking. So we used the background, and we made an arrow in the form of guiding vector to point out the user attention to the button. And also in the game, we added a little animation to it. And in another example, we also use guiding vectors to highlight the object that we sell. In this example, it's the guiding vector in the form of lightning bolts leading to the object from the header, or even the whole composition can be made in the form of guiding vector to the accent point of your interface. And also we can use the character gaze to look at the object we sell to shift the user attention. So now let's put all this into a practice, and I would like to analyze one of the most important interfaces of any game authors. So here are two authors, and which do you think is the best? Right. Yes, we can all agree that the right one is better. But what's wrong with the left one? So let's go through. First, we have very detailed composition, and it's distracting from the main object. And in general, the composition is not really good because the object is small and it's placed in the middle of something. And also the character gaze is not looking at the object and just distracts the user attention on herself. Then we have a very massive, voluminous header with lots of details, and also the exit button. I really want to click on this piece of wood, and also I cannot figure out what will I get as a user, 20 energy or a generator with 5 energy. And I also cannot see the benefit of this purchase. So we redesigned this offer, and what we got? We eliminated some details on the background and left only few of them to emphasize the mystery atmosphere. And also we worked with the composition in general. We put the main object on the left and we enlarged it, and also added guiding vectors in the form of lightning bolts, and they are all animated. So we can see clearly what is being sold here, and also remove the character because it didn't perform any function here. We made the header flat and less detailed, and we clearly stated what we are proposing here. It's 2,000 energy in total, so I know what will I get. And also we added a purchase sticker and we placed it in the zone between the exit button and the proposition, so when the user thinks that they want to leave this offer, maybe they will think twice and change their mind. So remember that the interface is one of the most important parts of your game. The better it is designed, the more comfortable for user to interact with this. The more conversion rate you get, and the higher revenue you will get. Thank you. And I'm waiting for your questions.
Thank you very much. Great presentation. I really love your visual styles, by the way, and all the insights you made with the let me find the word for this. I forgot. Okay, never mind. The theory, the basic theory. It's really great. So, do we have any questions in the audience? I can pass the microphone to you. I mean, people. What's wrong? All right. I wanted to ask you myself, could you share some maybe sources, internet sources, where you search for maybe new trends in UI, new trends in how like current user, the new generation users react to the button?
So basically, when we're developing the interface, first of all, we need to make a bunch of reference. So I just go to every game in the genre I use and look through their interfaces, because I already mentioned that people like familiarity because they acting based on the mental model. So we need to consider it. And if I see the repetitive part in each interface, probably I should use it too. And also then, okay, I got my mental models, I see what people like, and then I go to Pinterest and see the trends there. And in general, how people read and how they use the information. There are lots of internet sources, but I think the better one, the founder of this, it's Richard Nielsen. I don't remember, maybe it's not the right name, but Nielsen Group. And so it has all this information, how people perceive the information. They do lots of research every year, so you can go to Nielsen Group website and see it there. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. Great. Any question arose there? No, silence. All right. Can you share some personal experience of maybe some struggles when you kind of like knew what you have to do, but when you place and like following all the theoretical examples, like nothing turns out?
Yeah, it can happen because it's a little bit different from web design, because here we also use lots of different shapes, forms, and we also need to take it into account how it's look in general, how the picture, because colors can distract. Even if I put it in the right place, the form or the color won't be appropriate. So in this case, we also need to consider all this and make the decision, not the best decision, but what works. So that's how.
Yeah, and you know, like in this situation, you had kind of very few choices to choose. But if let's say, did ever something happen like that? You had a couple of great ideas and was not able to like pick one of them. Like, how would you work in a team? How would you decide which option is better? Maybe like run A/B testing or just vote?
Yes, of course. So we are having A/B test, and then we analyze what is the better. And sometimes the results are really surprising, because we expected it one way according to all rules, and then we see the test and it's working in different ways. So of course we should take it in account, the analytic part, and also the technical requirements, because sometimes we cannot put something because of, I don't know, resolution or the Unity processor, and then we need to figure out to talk with colleagues how to make the UX greater again. So yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you very much. Well, in my team, we just vote. That's it.
That also works.
Yeah, sometimes I would say. Okay, thank you very much. Please, a round of applause. Great presentation, great insights.